Hello, I'm David Stevens, founder of Beliefchangers, an organization focused on spreading the message of abiding in Christ, giving you the ability to hear God clearly, live life joyfully, share Christ openly, and experience the benefits of being the new creation that you've already become. I just wanted to take a little time away from work to come over here and shoot a video of something that God's been recently revealing to me. So let me begin by just kind of asking this question to you. Have you ever had that wondering thought of what heaven must be like just kind of skip through your mind? Now, given time to dwell on it, those thoughts easily conjure up some kind of emotions, and before you know it, you might find yourself longing to be in a place that you're not quite ready for. I guess this happens because God has placed eternity in all of our hearts. Now, we may live in this world, but our home is really somewhere else. It's in heaven. Now, what happens when you feel caught in the middle between earth and heaven? Meaning, outwardly you work and enjoy what occupies your days, but inwardly you long to work for what will occupy eternity. Now, I know for me, I've had my own run-ins with letting go of this world. I grew up wanting to prove my worth through what I accomplished. My heart longed to play sports of any kind, but unfortunately my small frame was better suited for the chess club. You might say that at 5 feet 5 inches I'm vertically challenged, and none of the major sports ever wanted to wait in line to ask me to participate in them. Yet my heart always overrode my brain, and instead of following conventional wisdom, I devoted a lot of my young life to being the very best I could be in playing basketball. And though I might have had a success here and there, what I envisioned for my life lived only in my dreams. By the time I reached 18 years old, my dream of athletic success and reward had completely ended. I didn't realize it at the time, but with the end of that dream, a little of the world that I consumed or I had just kind of sloughed off of me. Now, this was the first of many experiences that God used to take away some of my affection for this world. Now, I bet if you thought about it long enough, you could kind of pinpoint the exact situation that began your own loss of affection for the world. Now, I've realized over the years since then that when the death of a dream comes, the dream itself usually finds its source or found its source in the world. Now, early on in my 20s, with the hope of basketball success a distant memory, I unknowingly exchanged my athletic dream for a spiritual one. I applied the same tenacity in my dream for spiritual stardom that I had in my dream for athletic greatness. Yet this new dream, this spiritual dream, was also rooted in the world because what I did spiritually, I did so in order that others, and especially God, would just simply take notice. And just like in athletics, I did have some spiritual success, but left alone to my own thoughts, I knew I was still missing something. So eventually, over time, through many ups and downs in my life, the desire to be someone for God just fell off my life. I guess you could say that all that weight piled onto me by the world had to come off to prepare me for the true life that God wanted me to experience. Now, I've experienced many more similar situations as the two I've just shared, and I imagine your own story is played out in much the same way for you. But through it all, I discovered how to be in this world, but not of it. I've learned how, as we are instructed to do in Matthew chapter 6, store up treasures in heaven instead of storing them up here on earth. Now, I guess more accurately, God revealed to me how to live for heaven while just simply living in this world. Now, storing up treasures for heaven instead of earth just completely changed my spiritual life. Instead of working for God, I participated in what He was doing. Instead of feeling like I was being pushed to do spiritual things, I felt a slight pull, you might say a tugging from Jesus, leading my heart toward Him. Instead of living for the applause of others, I guess I lived for the applause of heaven. For many years, I lived believing my achievements through my own self-effort would give me some form of satisfaction in life. I thought that following a list of things to do for God somehow brought with it the ability to live for heaven. Boy, was I ever wrong. Yet a lot of Christian teaching requires a heavy dose of your self-effort to produce any kind of results. Whatever your problem, whether it's anger or depression or jealousy, fear, worry, a marital challenge, whatever. Someone has a plan rooted in self-effort that you can follow that will supposedly fix your life. But if you're like me, you've been down those roads too many times, and inwardly you know that all of that man-made how-to list keeping just simply ends in failure. But there is a way to experience moment-by-moment victory while at the same time storing up for yourself lasting treasures in heaven, even while you do what I would call the mundane things here on earth. And like everything truly of Christ, the solution is so simple because He does 99% of the work. Now let me show you what I mean by going over here to our Beliefchangers training screen. And I simply want to review for you a simple diagram. Now on the screen, I've given you an illustration of the human eye. In Matthew 6, verses 22 and 23, Jesus says something. He says that the eye is like the lamp of the body. If your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body is going to be full of darkness. And then he says this, if the light that is in you is darkness, how dark must it really be? So what does all that mean? Well, here's what this means and how it relates to you living your life focused on acquiring treasure in heaven. Basically, the eye is always doing two things, right? First of all, it is receiving light. And the second thing is it is focusing on some kind of object. Now, that's some pretty serious stuff or some pretty serious work, isn't it? Aren't you glad that you don't have to live your life in self-effort of try to do what the eye does and receiving light and focusing on something? Having to consciously regulate how much light gets into your or through your eye and how to maintain focus at all the different points you might look at would just simply be overwhelming. But in fact, it would be totally consuming and consume all of your life. But the eye doesn't generate the light, does it? Nor does it create the object that you look toward. Instead, it simply what? Receives the light and allows you to see whatever you're focused on without you having to put forth any effort. But all this work going on in your eye doesn't consume your life, does it? Or the reason it doesn't is because your eye takes care of all of this work for you without you exerting any effort. All you have to do is what? Open your eyes and then find something to look at and then allow the eye to do its thing. So how might this look spiritually? If we were to take a look and use the same illustration but focus it on the spiritual eyes that we all have. When talking about storing up treasure in heaven, Jesus used the example of the eye because to live out your life on earth for the life to come in heaven requires that you just open your eyes and look. And what are you receiving when you open your eyes and look but light? And who is the one who is the light of the world? That's right, it's Christ. So, when you actually look toward Jesus spiritually, what happens? Your eyes see Him because the light of Christ illuminates and shines forth, and your spiritual eyes can receive it. The light that He allows into your life, you can see. The two things that your physical eye needs to see, light and something to focus on, are exactly the two things you need to spiritually see, light and the one that the object of that light focuses on. And who serves as the light to a dark world but Christ? As well as who serves as the single object the world can focus on to find life? Well, it's Jesus again. If you open wide your life to Christ, His light will just simply flood your entire life. And like a lamp that lights the way, Jesus will light your way. Now here's the point. What you focus on, or what you focus your attention on, serves as the light of your life and serves as the light that your life follows. When Christ is your focus, everything becomes clear and very easy to see. When He isn't your focus, your life fills up with darkness. Living just to store up treasures for this world is like waking up in the pitch black of night. You see, but you really don't see. What you can see in the room results from what little light might come through the crack in the bottom of the door or through the blinds in the window. Spiritually speaking, when this happens, you can, technically see, but are you really living? The world takes the people who have learned to better live in the darkness than those around them and holds them up in exalted form. I like to say that these type of people are the 3%ers. If we were to draw a scale here of 1 to 100, with 100 being what we were really created to be, these people who focus on the world get to 3%. And at 3%, all of the other people behind them look at those 3% people and see them as a success. They manage to attain their 3% success because of their ability to make it in this world. It's like a group of people all living in darkness, crowning king and queen, the two people who somehow avoided bumping into things. Even though the two people live in the same darkness as all the others, the fact that they generated just enough light through their talents and abilities to get by with just warrants to the rest of the crowd in darkness that these two people are the people they should follow. Now, when a person lives in the midst of darkness and thinks that darkness is light, how great must that darkness be in their life? But the eye was never made to exist in darkness, was it? Without light and without something to focus on, the eye is worthless. Spiritually, without light and without something to focus on, you have no hope of ever experiencing the deeper Christian life. But fortunately, you don't have to produce the light to see nor try to find something worthwhile to focus on. Jesus supplies both for you. Just open your eyes wide spiritually and look for Him. Now, I told you earlier that the way to store up treasure in heaven, treasure that will never lose value and will last forever, was something very simple. How difficult is it to just focus on Jesus and allow His light to fill up your life? Now, all those mundane things that you do each day, taking care of the kids, taking out the trash, cooking dinner, whatever it might be, just turn into heavenly riches when you do them from the perspective of a life simply focused on Christ. When the eternal Christ serves as the source of every single thing you do, what you do will last for eternity. The mistake here is to believe that what I just said about focusing on Jesus and letting Him do all the work might sound just too good to be true, that you might think it's just too easy to be that way, that somehow you have to do something to gain such a perspective. Now, more than likely, thoughts like these have been chasing you around for many years. But do they ever lead you beyond simply the exhaustion of trying to measure up, spiritually measure up to God? You can spiritually work yourself into exhaustion, but you cannot work yourself into rest. But you do have to do something in this process, and fortunately, your little 1% is very easy to do. You simply have to tell Jesus that you're opening your eyes wide and you're allowing Him to be the light and the object of your attention. Now, I know you're thinking this to yourself. Is that it? Is that all I have to do? And the answer is yes. It is that simple. The Christian life is not about you living like Christ, but rather Christ living through you. Since your mouth speaks from that which fills up your heart, deep down, if you want a more meaningful life in Christ, and you want the actions that you take on this earth to count toward heaven, then just simply tell God about your desire. God hears your desires regardless of the words that you use to express them. Now, you do have a choice. You can choose the way of self-effort and live only for this world and store up treasures for this world, or you can choose to, wide-eyed, place your attention on Christ and approach Him and let Him light up your life. Each moment you choose Jesus is another moment that you store up something in heaven. For Belief Changers, I'm David Stevens, reminding you that no life lives better than the one that abides in Christ.